My beloved child, the moment you press play, something inside you already senses that the story you've been living with someone hasn't been the whole truth. And what I'm about to reveal may feel like a silent earthquake under your feet. There is someone in your life, someone who speaks softly, appears gentle, and acts like they carry the weight of understanding you, but behind every comforting line, there is a calculation, a motive, a hidden blueprint you haven't seen yet. And the reason this holds such power over you is because they know exactly which emotional thread inside you responds first. They know your fears, your quiet hopes, the loneliness you never speak of, and they use those emotions like keys to unlock your trust. The shocking part is this: they never came close just out of care. They came close because your vulnerability became the easiest doorway into your heart, and they learned how to stand at that door without you ever noticing their real intention. This isn't manipulation you can see in words, it's the manipulation that hides inside silence, inside the moments where they pretend to listen, inside the soft pauses that make you believe they truly care. And while you feel seen, they feel powerful, because they know they can tilt your emotions without lifting a finger. But here is where the story turns darker, more surprising, and almost unbelievable. This person isn't just fooling you to keep you near, they're fooling you because they want to control how you see yourself. They don't want you to recognize your worth, because the moment you do, you won't need them. They know that the day you understand your own strength is the day their influence breaks into dust. So they create scenarios where they act like the only one who understands you, like the only one who listens, like the only one who cares. But watch closely, they show up only when you're hurting, never when you're rising. They comfort your wounds but disappear when you shine, because your strength threatens the illusion they've built. Their intention is not affection, it's dependence. They want you attached, emotionally tied, unable to walk away. And they achieve this by giving you just enough warmth to keep you from freezing, but never enough light for you to see the truth. This emotional game was never accidental. It was crafted, shaped, designed. And you've been walking through it without realizing the purpose behind it. And now, the revelation that will hit hardest: their real intention is to keep you in a cycle where they are always one step above you. They want to be the hero in your story, not because they want to save you, but because they want you to believe you cannot save yourself. Every time they comfort you, they secretly feed the idea that your stability depends on them. Every time they return after disappearing, they expect you to feel grateful for their presence. They want you emotionally invested while they remain emotionally distant. This imbalance is not coincidence, it is the foundation of their plan. They aren't fooling you because they're confused. They aren't fooling you because they care too much. They're fooling you because your loyalty benefits them. Your trust benefits them. Your softness benefits them. And your hope, your pure, quiet hope that this person could be genuine, benefits them the most. This is the unfiltered truth you were never meant to uncover. They never intended to love you the way you deserved. They intended to keep you exactly where they could reach you, shape you, calm you, and influence you, without ever giving you the stability you kept hoping for. And now that you're hearing this, the illusion begins to crack, and the truth begins to rise, showing you what you were never supposed to see. And now, listen closely, because what comes next is the part they never wanted you to understand. The emotional web they've woven around you wasn't created overnight. It started with small moments, tiny gestures of care, perfectly timed messages, soft words that hit you when you needed them most. They studied your reactions like a silent observer, noticing what made you open up, what made you trust, what made you feel safe. And once they figured out your emotional rhythm, they synchronized themselves with it. They became the person who appeared just when your heart felt heavy and vanished the moment you started regaining your balance. This predictable pattern wasn't random, it was deliberate. They wanted to become the comfort you ran to, so they could also become the confusion you couldn't escape. Their power wasn't in what they said, but in how they made you feel. They created emotional storms and then arrived as the shelter. They kept you close by letting you believe you needed them. And all the while, they were quietly shaping your perception, making you think that this connection was rare, deep, meaningful. When in reality, it was a carefully crafted illusion designed to keep you emotionally available for their benefit. But here is where the tension intensifies, where the unseen truth becomes impossible to ignore. This person carries two faces, one they show you, and one they only reveal when they think you're not paying attention. With you, they act soft, sincere, and supportive. Away from you, they plot every step, deciding how to respond, when to pull back, when to give you hope and when to take it away. They've built a cycle that keeps you hooked. They appear deeply connected one day, then emotionally distant the next. They give you moments of warmth, only to replace them with cold silence. They make you feel special, only to question your place the moment you start feeling secure. They know exactly how to wake your anxiety, how to ignite your longing, how to keep your heart searching for answers that never arrive. This is how they maintain control, not through loud words or obvious actions, but through subtle emotional shifts that leave you restless, unsure, and trying to decode what you did wrong. And the truth is, you never did anything wrong. The confusion you feel isn't caused by your mistakes, it's caused by their strategy. They want you emotionally tangled, because it keeps them emotionally superior. The more you question yourself, the more power they gain. The more you try to understand them, the deeper you fall into their emotional maze. And now comes the revelation that hits like lightning, the one they never expected you to reach. Their actual intention has never been to genuinely love you, it has been to control the narrative of how you see them. They want to be admired without earning it, trusted without proving it, desired without giving anything real in return. They want to feel powerful by knowing they can affect your emotions with a single message, a single word, a single absence. They want you to keep giving, hoping, waiting, while they remain untouched, unaffected, and in full control. This isn't love. This isn't care. This is emotional advantage disguised as connection. They've been feeding on the softest parts of you. Your loyalty, your empathy, your patience, because those qualities make you easy to influence. They created a bond that feels deep only because they know exactly how to trigger your heart. And the most shocking part? They thought you would never see through it. They believed you would stay blinded by emotion while they stayed protected behind their intentions. But now, the truth is unraveling. The curtain is lifting. The hidden motive is rising to the surface. And for the first time, you're seeing the real intention they worked so hard to hide. They wanted your attachment, not your heart. They wanted your emotional devotion, not your well-being. They wanted control, not connection. Now pay attention, because this is where the emotional mask finally starts cracking, revealing what they've been hiding behind every carefully crafted moment. The truth is, this person never approached you with pure intentions, they approached you with a purpose. They wanted access to your emotions, not because they valued them, but because they understood the influence that came with them. They realized early on that you feel deeply, that you care genuinely, that you love sincerely, and instead of respecting that, they used it as leverage. Every compliment they gave you, every gentle message, every moment where they acted like they understood your silence, none of it was accidental. They were testing how far your heart would stretch for them, how much of yourself you would offer, how much pain you would tolerate just to keep the connection alive. They watched you fall in deeper while they stayed comfortably distant. And all the while, they fed you just enough sweetness to keep you from walking away. They wanted your belief, your devotion, your emotional energy, because your attachment made them feel important, made them feel powerful. It wasn't love. It was validation. And you were the easiest source of it. But the twist you never saw coming is this: they were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of you waking up. Afraid of you realizing that the intensity you felt was one-sided. Afraid of the moment you stop blaming yourself for their inconsistencies and finally see the pattern for what it is: emotional conditioning. They wanted to be the person you thought about every night, the voice that echoed in your mind, the presence you longed for even in silence. Not because they planned to stay, but because they wanted to be unforgettable. They wanted control without commitment, influence without accountability. And so they created this push and pull dance, one day giving you so much emotional warmth that you felt chosen, and the next day pulling back so suddenly that you felt abandoned. They knew that this contrast would create obsession, not love. They knew it would make you crave their attention more intensely. They knew you would replay every moment, trying to understand what changed, when in reality nothing changed, they simply shifted strategies. And while you were searching for answers inside yourself, they were quietly enjoying the effect they had on you. They wanted you emotionally unstable, because unstable hearts cling tightly. And they needed you to cling. That was their goal from the start. And now comes the final shock, the truth powerful enough to break the illusion entirely. Their actual intention was never to build something real, it was to keep you emotionally occupied so you wouldn't see who they truly are. They needed your attention because it filled the emptiness inside them. They needed your admiration because it made them feel superior. They needed your emotional loyalty because it gave them a sense of control they couldn't create on their own. They didn't want a relationship, they wanted a mirror that reflected back the version of themselves they wished they were. Every time you cared, it boosted their ego. Every time you worried, it proved their influence. Every time you stayed, even when they hurt you, it confirmed their power. They were using your love to protect their insecurities. Using your sincerity to hide their emotional emptiness. Using your hope to mask their lack of genuine intention. And now the harsh truth stands in front of you, unfiltered and undeniable. They were fooling you not because they were strong, but because they were weak. They wanted your heart only because they didn't have one strong enough of their own. They wanted your emotions only because theirs were hollow. And they wanted your loyalty only because they had no loyalty to give. Now that you see their real intention, the illusion shatters, and the emotional hold they had over you begins to break, piece by piece, moment by moment, revealing the truth you were never meant to discover. And now, let the truth hit you even deeper, because this is the part where the emotional illusion finally collapses under its own weight. The person who has been fooling you emotionally has mastered one thing better than anything else: timing. They know exactly when to pull back, when to reappear, when to pretend they care, and when to let silence work for them. They understood early on that the more inconsistent they acted, the more intensely you would feel. They used distance as a weapon, and presence as bait. Their pattern was crafted with precision: disappear long enough to make you doubt yourself, return just enough to make you feel chosen again. They fed on your confusion because it made you more invested. They fed on your hope because it made you wait. They fed on your fears because it made you softer, more emotional, more attached. They calculated every moment of warmth because they knew that a single kind gesture after days of coldness would hit you harder than genuine consistency ever could. And while you were trying to understand why their actions never matched their words, they were quietly enjoying the storm they created inside you. They wanted your heart shaken, your emotions stirred, your thoughts looping around them, because emotional chaos gives manipulators the highest level of control. But here comes the twist that changes everything: the realization they hoped you would never reach. The reason they keep pretending to care, the reason they keep giving you emotional crumbs, the reason they keep returning at the perfect moment, is because they don't want to lose the version of you that doubts your worth. They don't fear losing you. They fear losing the power they hold over your emotions. They fear the day you see that their kindness is temporary and their intentions are hollow. They fear the moment you stop blaming yourself for their silence. They fear the second you recognize that their sudden sweetness after long emotional distance is not love, it's strategy. They stroke your emotions when they need you, and starve them when they want control. Every time they reach out, it's not because they miss you, it's because they feel you pulling away. Every time they apologize, it's not because they've changed, it's because they sense the illusion slipping. They don't want you healed. They don't want you confident. They don't want you aware. Because the moment you become aware, their entire emotional system collapses. The moment you regain clarity, they lose their influence. And the moment you understand that their behavior has nothing to do with your value, but everything to do with their insecurity, the hold they have on your heart begins to dissolve. This person has been fooling you emotionally not out of strength, but out of fear. Fear that you'll discover they are emotionally empty. Fear that you'll realize their intentions were never genuine. Fear that you'll wake up and walk away from the game they've been playing. And now comes the shock that finally exposes their hidden motive, the revelation powerful enough to end their emotional grip: their actual intention was never to build a future with you. It was to keep you emotionally dependent so they could always come back whenever life made them feel lonely, insecure, or insignificant. They wanted to keep you as an emotional backup, a source of validation, a place they could return to when their ego needed healing. They wanted to make sure you were always emotionally available, even when they were nowhere to be found. They didn't want commitment, they wanted control. They didn't want love, they wanted loyalty without effort. They didn't want connection, they wanted to keep you in an emotional cycle where your heart stayed open and theirs stayed closed. This person wasn't afraid of losing you because they believed you would always stay. They believed their mixed signals were enough to keep you confused. They believed their occasional affection was enough to keep you hopeful. But now, something they never prepared for is happening. You're seeing the truth. You're seeing behind the mask. You're seeing the intention. And once the truth becomes visible, manipulation loses its power. Their emotional game only worked when you didn't understand it. Now that you do, their influence fades. Their charm breaks. Their control dissolves. And the truth, the real truth, finally sets you free from the emotional trap you were never meant to fall into. And now, let the truth settle even further, because this is the moment where the emotional fog begins to clear and the full picture finally takes shape. This person has spent so long shaping your perception that you started believing the version of them they created, not the version they actually are. They made themselves look reliable by showing up only when it benefited them. They made themselves seem irreplaceable by choosing the perfect moments to be kind. They made themselves appear deeply connected by mirroring your emotions, pretending to understand every silent ache you carried. But behind all of this, there was always a quiet calculation, a silent self-interest driving their every move. They watched you trust them. They watched you open your heart slowly. They watched you forgive them again and again. And instead of appreciating your softness, they treated it like a resource, something they could tap into whenever their life grew empty. You became not a person to them, but a place. A place they visited when they needed comfort, validation, attention, and emotional warmth. And once they got what they needed, their distance returned, like a door closing right after it lets you peek inside. They fooled you not because you were weak, but because you were pure. And people with hidden intentions always take advantage of pure hearts first. But here comes the twist they hoped you would never discover, the realization that turns the entire story upside down. The reason they latched onto your emotions so strongly was because they cannot generate any emotional stability on their own. They rely on the feelings of others to feel significant. They rely on admiration to feel valuable. They rely on your affection to feel secure. Without someone feeding their ego, they start to crumble inside. And that's exactly why they kept circling back to you. They knew your heart was the one place that would always accept them, even when they didn't deserve it. They used your forgiving nature like a safety net. They used your loyalty like a shield against their own emptiness. They used your love as a way to escape their inner chaos. And while you kept searching for genuine meaning in their mixed signals, they were never searching for meaning at all, they were searching for emotional fuel. They didn't want to understand you. They wanted to absorb you. They didn't want to grow with you. They wanted to lean on you. And as long as you didn't recognize their pattern, they were safe. They knew they could disappear and return, hurt you and then comfort you, confuse you and then charm you, because you still believed they cared. But the truth is, they cared only when it benefited them, and vanished the moment it didn't. Their affection was never consistent because their intention was never real. And now comes the final reveal, the truth heavy enough to break the emotional spell they've held over you. This person's actual intention was to keep you in a space where you were always emotionally available, always hopeful, always waiting, always ready to welcome them back, even when they offered you nothing stable, nothing certain, nothing true. They didn't want to love you. They wanted to own your emotional focus. They didn't want to be with you. They wanted to keep you thinking about them. They didn't want to build with you. They wanted to ensure you never built anything without them in mind. Their goal was never connection, it was possession. Not in a dramatic way, but in a subtle psychological way that keeps you emotionally dependent while they remain emotionally free. They wanted you trapped in a loop, replaying memories, analyzing their behavior, wondering what went wrong, because as long as you were stuck in that loop, they were in control. But now, something they never expected is happening. You're breaking out of the loop. You're seeing the truth behind their charm, the manipulation behind their softness, the selfishness behind their emotional games. And once you see their intention clearly, everything changes. The confusion dissolves. The attachment weakens. The emotional power they once held over you collapses. They fooled you emotionally, yes, but they cannot fool you anymore. The truth has arrived, and with it, the strength you needed to finally step out of the cycle they built around your heart. And now, step even closer to the truth, because this is where the emotional machinery behind their behavior finally becomes undeniable. This person didn't just fool you with words, they fooled you with timing, patterns, and emotional rhythms designed to keep you trapped without realizing it. They observed how deeply you feel, how fiercely you care, how quickly you forgive, and they used those traits like tools. They knew that if they gave you even a small moment of affection after days of silence, your heart would soften instantly. They knew that if they acted vulnerable for just a moment, you would rush to comfort them. They knew that if they showed even a hint of pain, you would pour your entire soul into healing them. And so they shaped this emotional cycle where you carried all the weight while they collected all the benefits. They positioned themselves as someone broken enough to need your love, but distant enough to never return it. They made you believe you were important to them, but only when it suited them. They made you feel like your presence mattered, but only when they needed to feel significant. And all the while, they stayed emotionally unreachable, knowing that your heart would keep trying to cross a bridge they never intended to finish building. But here comes the next twist, the one that exposes the depth of their manipulation. This person pretended to be emotionally overwhelmed so you would lower your guard. They acted fragile so you would become softer. They acted confused so you would take responsibility for the connection. They acted unsure so you would be the one to hold everything together. They played the role of someone who needed time, someone who was scared of getting hurt, someone who wasn't ready, not because they were truly struggling, but because these excuses kept you patient, attached, and emotionally locked in. They fed you slow-burning hope because hope is the strongest chain. They gave you temporary closeness because closeness is the strongest illusion. And they disappeared just long enough for you to crave them again. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly how you would react. They knew exactly how to keep you emotionally dependent while they stayed emotionally protected. And the truth is, they were never afraid of getting hurt, they were afraid of losing control. They didn't distance themselves because they needed space, they distanced themselves because your awareness was getting too close to the truth. They didn't pull back because they cared, they pulled back because they saw your strength rising, and that terrified them more than anything else. And now comes the revelation that destroys their entire act, the truth they never wanted you to realize. Their actual intention was to keep you emotionally conditioned in a way that served them. They wanted you to feel chosen, without actually being chosen. They wanted you to feel special, without actually being valued. They wanted you to feel connected, without actually being included. They wanted the emotional benefits of your love without giving you the emotional security you deserved. They wanted the comfort of your presence without offering you a future. They wanted your heart open while theirs stayed locked. And they believed this strategy would keep you in their grasp indefinitely, that you would keep forgiving, keep hoping, keep waiting, keep believing that one day they would finally choose you fully. But something shifted. Something they didn't prepare for. You're seeing the truth now. You're seeing the intention behind their inconsistency, the calculation behind their emotions, the emptiness behind their affection. Their manipulation only worked when you didn't understand it. But now, you do. And the moment understanding arrives, manipulation dies. Their emotional influence, once so strong, starts to dissolve. Their charm fades. Their presence loses its grip. And for the first time, you are standing outside the illusion they built, stronger, clearer, and finally free from the person who never intended to love you, only to use your heart as their emotional shelter.